Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. And today I'm going to be talking about Howard from Last of the Summer Wine. This is another character file review. As you know, earlier this month I did a video about Pearl, so just a character profile breakdown of her character. So the character file review today is of Howard Sibshaw. So Howard made his first appearance in 1985, the same as Pearl. And we first, meet Howard. But Howard is one of those characters where you sort of, you like to hate him because he's just not a very nice guy. I mean, he's a bit odd, and he's a bit quirky and a bit strange. He appeared in over 200 episodes of Last of the Summer Wine, which is incredible, really, when you think about there are 295 episodes of Last of the Summer Wine, and he appeared in over 200 of those episodes. So I think that's quite incredible. I think it's about 230, something like that. But yeah, just appearing on the program for like 25 years, I think is just amazing how he managed to play that character the whole time, the whole way through, without even a break or a stop. I just think it's incredible that he managed to play that character for so long. I really enjoy his dynamic with like the trio and Pearl and Marina, obviously. So Howard is this character where you sort of love to hate him because he's just a bit of a buffoon, really, and he's very sort of wimpy and a bit, like that. I don't know, I don't know that was the best way to describe him, but he's a bit, wimpyish, and I think that's just a great part of his character, really. But the thing is, I do like is with the sort of the love triangle, as it were, between Howard, Pearl, and Marina. That sort of just that full love triangle there, because Howard doesn't like Pearl. They don't get on in any way, despite being married for years and years. So they don't get on in the same way as him and Marina do. So Howard and Marina get on really well, even though they're probably more similar to each other because they're quite thick. Basically, they're just a bit of a wally anyway. So they sort of get on well with each other. Whereas Howard and Pearl are like the polar opposites of each other, but they can't live without each other, which I think's kind of unique because even in the episodes towards the end in the later series, Pearl chucks him out, and you really see how much Howard misses Pearl. He wants to be with her much more than he wants to be with Marina, and I think that's really interesting. And also, I love the comedy aspect of each episode. There's Howard, and he's come up with a daft plan to make Pearl think that he's actually going bird watching when actually he's going cycling with Marina. I mean, it just happens all the time, and I think that's kind of funny that he's always off doing this, and then he's an adventurer one minute. He's a cyclist, a bird watcher. I've been learning about bugs, all this random. It's like every episode, it's so peculiar because he just sort of changes his whole character to fit the situation really. And he's always trying to climb out of a window all the time. There's like getting a ladder out, and the trio like maybe Clegg and Truly and Compo and all that lot are trying to get him out of the window, and he's there on the staircase. Well, it's not the staircase, the ladder, and then the ladder might move, and then he falls, on his bum, basically. So it's just funny, and it's mad how many different situations you see. Or he goes to um, or he goes to Auntie Wainwright's, and he buys a bit of tat, basically, to give to Pearl or Marina. I believe in one episode he buys a giant dinosaur to give to Pearl as a birthday present, and then that gets chucked out of the window, and like it gets chucked on him or something. I don't know. It's quite ridiculous if you ask me. And there's lots of episodes where he's sort of like, "Oh, can you send my letter to Marina?" And he's always like, he's sending love letters, and I don't know. He's a very busy man, I can tell you that. But he always wants to make it look as if he's hanging out with, Compo, Clegg, Truly, Foggy, or whoever's in the program at the time, in the main trio. Is he always wants to make it look like he's hanging around with them, when actually he's with Marina and they're off cycling and doing all this random stuff, which I find quite interesting. That he's always wants to just leave them because he's not really involved with them as much, because he just wants to be, with Marina. Now, if I was Howard, I would just divorce Pearl and go with Marina. But Howard is so attached to Pearl, based on the fact that she, cooks for him, does all those stuff for him, looks after him in a way, keeps him straight and in line, right? And that's probably what he likes. Whereas with Marina, he can do whatever he wants, but then he sort of feels like he needs to be kept in his own way, which I find quite interesting. That the dynamic is that he always wants to escape her, but his heart can never escape her. I know that sounds really mushy, but literally, that's basically what I think if we're breaking down Howard as a character. Because I find him such an unusual character, but I think he's really good. And him and Norman Clegg have a great bit of chemistry between them two, because obviously Clegg is like, I actually hate this guy. This guy is so annoying, which I find really funny and enjoyable that them two sort of bicker with each other. But to be fair, I think Clegg sort of likes the fact that he can take the mick out of this guy, because he's just a total wally. And Clegg's like, I'm very happy living by myself, sort of thing. And this guy is just a nutter, basically. So I do like that dynamic as well. So the actor who played Howard Sibshaw, was Robert Fife. Fife, I believe that's how you say it. Robert Fife. Now, he was actually a Scottish actor. So, believe it or not, he was Scottish. And he played a Northerner, and pretty well. I mean, the accent, I think, was pretty good. I think he did a good job, really. I mean, if you told me he wasn't actually from Yorkshire, I think, I don't think I'd believe you, because he does do a good accent, and I think that's really good. So that's pretty cool as well. But the fact is, he was in the show for 25 years, which is quite an amazing chunk of time. Anyway, I can't imagine, if you being an actor and then be like, praying for that long. Some people who are on soaps are on that for years and years and years. But comedy series never run that long normally, so I think it's incredible that he actually make it that far on the show as well. But the thing is, though, with Howard, he's such a great character because he just has all of those elements where you can have him with anyone and it can be funny. So, you can get people to take the mick out of him. Like I think Truly takes the mick out of him loads of times. Clegg always takes the mick out of him. Compo takes the mick out of him. Everyone takes the mick out of Howard because he's just so easy to target. Because basically he's just a total wally, as I've mentioned earlier. And I really do enjoy that relationship with him and Marina, because Marina, alright, so Norman Clegg, he's scared of Marina because he is, and he's just scared of her in general. But so every time, Clegg is asked to deliver a letter to Marina, he's like, nope, I ain't doing that. But then, like, Howard sort of, twists his thumb a little bit to make him do it, and I think that's really ingenious. That the way that Roy Clark writes it, I think it's just really, really well done, really, because you can have Howard in any situation. 1 minute he's gonna do like sword fighting or whatever. I mean, I don't remember that being an episode, but you could have him in any situation. He's going to be a motorbike racer, various other things like that. But there are episodes where Howard does get very jealous of Pearl and wonders, what is she doing? And he even like tracks her down in one episode because I've forgotten her name now. I think it might be Nelly. I think that's her name, Nelly. I can't remember. It was the one that Hobbo thought was his mum was friends with Pearl. If that makes any sense. And basically them two go off and they do like motorbiking, and so Howard gets really like nervous and he just wants to find out. So he's just rushing to find out about it, and he ends up following them and then sees that they're on motorbikes. So he is actually quite jealous and protective of Pearl, despite him not really looking that way, because he is just he's that attached to Pearl in other aspects, but other aspects he's like just want to go away. So it is a very interesting relationship in Last of the Summer Wine, and a lot of people don't particularly like Howard as a character. I don't think, or in the chronology of the show, a lot of people don't really like Howard. Because he's just a bit of a wally, really. But if you compare him to some of the other husband characters, he's quite different in the fact that he has more freedom in comparison to those other characters. Like Sid and Wally and Wesley don't have as much, freedom in the way of Howard, because Howard is always the subject of, I've got to get from A to B. I've got to basically escape Pearl's house to go to the woods or the field somewhere and do some random scheme. And there's even a funny line, I think, by one of the police officers where he captures Howard with Pearl for the first time, and "Oh, I didn't know you were with her before," because obviously he'd only ever seen her hit him with Marina. So I thought that was a very funny line. I think in one of the earliest appearances of Howard, I think he goes off to like the woods again, and he does maybe it's the woods or the field or something like that. And Combo and Foggy spot him doing dancing with Marina randomly, and they're just like, it's just so random, um, completely random anyway. Um, yeah, and there are episodes where Howard gets jealous of Marina because Marina's suddenly going out with other blokes. But to be fair, Howard didn't really make a proper move. To be fair, so I mean, it's fair to understand why. You know, she would want to go off and someone else, and she's got a sort of a fascination with Smiler and stuff like that. So I don't know. Marina's sort of always off with other blokes because Howard is not very reliable because he's got a wife, you know. So I always find that really interesting about the character of Howard. Robert Fife did an absolutely brilliant job as bringing the character to life, and yeah, I just think he was a really good character. Really, him and Pearl had really great chemistry as well. I just like that bickering, the constant back and forth bickering between them two. The way Howard's very nosy and sort of wants to find out stuff, and he's really scared of Pearl just because he's worried she's gonna find out he's had an affair. Um, and in the end, they do sort of, make up in the end because in the last episode of Last of Mine, they do sort of, you can see that they do love and care for each other, despite Howard being an idiot. Um, I just find that a really great dynamic that them two have, and it's just brilliant, really, and the acting is superb. And I think Roy Clark's scripts, the way in particularly towards the later end, so anywhere from series 8 onwards, I believe. So we're talking about Seymour years, or maybe late Foggy years, however I describe it. The show sort of stays very similar in the way the format is. So in the Seymour era, all the new characters get introduced, and they stay the same all the way until the end of the series in 2010. And Howard was brought in there in 1985 to sort of, I think, freshen up the show, to make it slightly different and to add that unique dynamic that I think really benefited the show, to get all of these other characters in. But these other characters have unique elements, and I think it was a really good idea to have Howard be related to Auntie Wainwright and all that sort of stuff because I thought that really worked well. But yeah, so I think Howard as a character is just a really enjoyable character to watch, and yeah, I think it was played superbly well, and yeah, that's sort of what I've got to say about Howard. Really, Howard Sibshaw, which is only mentioned in one episode, his surname, but because I think uh, uh, Glenda, she says, "Oh, Mr. Sibshaw," which is a bit random because you'd just call him Howard, wouldn't you? Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed the video. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in a video soon, very soon. I've got plans to make some more character file reviews on the channel. They'll be coming in April. A lot more of those will be. So also I want to do Sid and Crusher. Those are the two characters that I really want to do because those characters are really great, and I think were really great in the show as well. But thank you all for watching, and stay tuned for any more Last of the Summer Wine character file reviews because they'll be here. And yeah, well, see ya.